Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and it's time for another Raw Edit of the Week. This week it's number 82. That's right, 82, and it's a screaming portrait. I believe it's from Steven Tippett. I've seen some of his edits. Basically what he's doing is going around and getting pictures of people screaming, just random people, and it's pretty cool. So I asked him to send me one because I thought that his editing was a little too over the top, too just heavy-handed. So he's asked what I would do, so I figured we would open it up to everybody and do a Raw Edit of the Week here, or maybe not even of the week, just Raw Edit, because they go for a couple weeks now, and see what you could come up with. So here's the shot, taken with the, let's see, Nikon D800, 1/400th of a second, f2.8, ISO 2500 with the 50 millimeter, sorry, with the 24 to 72.8 at 50 millimeters. Now, I'm a big fan of focus, and that gets difficult. When you look in here, I had to find it, and the eyes are out. And it's a D800, so we're in a pretty far way, but you can still tell that the focus is somewhere right here, where the eyes are missed. Now, I think what happened here is that he locked in on single focus, and then she screamed and moved. In a case like this, you need to leave yourself more room than just 2.8, something like 3.5 or 4 or even 4.5. It's not going to take away from the background too much. You just have to take those things into consideration, that she moved. And because she moved, it's not uber-duberly fantastic. It's not sharp. The eyes are out. That's just something that I noticed when I went into this. But this is the Raw Edit. It's about editing this file, and how would you do this? He's doing a whole series of these screaming ones, and I'd like to see what you would do for a shot like this. You can go extreme. You can go off the wall. You can take it into Photoshop. Let's see what you do with this type of image. I just thought it was a cool shot, more so a cool concept that he's been doing, and there's hundreds and hundreds of photos that he's taken for this, just running into people randomly on the street. It's a great exercise, especially just to talk to random people and get used to talking to people by asking for permission to do this. So it's really cool. I'd like to see what you come up with for Raw Edit of the Week number 82. It's brought to you by, I don't know, who brings this to us? Is it Alan's Camera? I think it's Alan's Camera. Yeah, Alan's Camera. Check him out, alanscamera.com. Check out the site. You can pick up anything you have, anything you need photo-wise if you're in the United States of the Americas. So there you have it. Let's see what you guys come up with. Download this from the FroKnowsPhoto forum. You can upload it to Facebook. You put it wherever you would like to put it, but please name it FroKnowsPhoto Raw Edit number 82, and that's what we got. Yeah. Have fun with that. And coming up right now, my Raw Edit of the Week, followed by Adam's Raw Edit of the Week, and then we are going to get to your Raw Edits of the Week. Here it is time now for my Raw Edit of this file, but before I do that, why don't I show you what the photographer came up with, because they did supply their JPEG. That's what they did. I'm not a big fan of that. That's oversaturated and killed, and it's not terrible. I just think that it's a little too heavy-handed. You may think that my edit's going to be heavy-handed as well, but I'm going to go black and white is what I'm going to do. Next up after me, Adam has his Raw Edits, and I don't know yet. Have we seen yours? I don't know. We'll have to determine that after I make the full-on video. So here we go. Let's go to the Develop module, go right to black and white, boom. Pull back on my exposure because it is overexposed. Boomify my contrast. And that's it. No, that's not it. It's almost it, but that's pretty cool. Look at that. I like this so far. I think it works. And there's a little bit of clarity slider going up in there. Let's play with the blacks. Equal share there. Moving back. -20. Some white levels. Let's see. How far do I want to take it? I want to go about there. There's still information. Highlights. Don't want to go too far on highlights, and I don't like pulling back on highlights because that's what happens. It gives it that solarized look. I'm not a big fan of that. Shadows. Where do all the shadow people play? Don't want to go too far on that because look at the background. The background becomes a distraction, but it's amazing. Again, this is taken with a T1 eye. Look at this. Look at this shadow detail, or look at the detail in the background that you're getting out of the RAW file. I do not think you would end up getting that out of the JPEG, out of the camera. That's, again, the power of the RAW. So let's see what else we can do. Let's strong contrast. No, it's medium, strong. I think it's cool. A little bit of shadow for her shirt. I'm going to go with that. I don't even think I'm going to vignette. Really don't want to go too far. But, you know, to save this image, this is one thing that you could do to it, so I like that. So let's see what Adam came up with, and then, yeah, I've decided your edits are right after Adam's edit. And, Adam, you are up.
Adam Lerner, and welcome to this week's Raw Edit 81. Wow. It's been a little while, but I thought I would give a crack at this file because it's just oozing all kinds of editing stuff. Yeah, I mean, I know that Jared said edit this one like you would have to save the photographer's life. You only have this one chance to edit this file so the client is happy. Well, you know, the photo to me is a little bit off. You know, there's some kind of odd things going on about it. Let's just look at a couple things here. It's 5.6. And it's a 55 to 250th shot at 65. Yeah, 55 millimeter, 250 millimeter shot at 60 millimeters. So it's a variable aperture lens at 1/50th of a second. I mean, there's all kinds of just wacky stuff going on here. Yeah, the settings are all kind of kooky. But you know, we're not here to judge that necessarily. So let's get into cracking at this this file right here. Very first thing that's bugging me is that it's leaning. So I'm going to just straighten this thing out here, and I'm just going to do it like this. And let's just get this kind of more justified just a little bit. Now it looks like we're going to be cutting this guy's head off. So maybe I can just kind of grab a little bit of this in here, so that we don't cut off too much of his head. And yeah, let's see, something like that. Yeah. All right. It's so weird. It's such a tight little space here. Is that kind of justified? I don't know. It's just the lines are just off. It's just not right. It's not right. Yeah. Let's go that way. Less of that bit over there. Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to keep playing with this. You know, that's kind of what you have to do sometimes. You just kind of keep moving it around until it feels right. All right. So let's keep it like that. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring the highlights way down. Boom. Actually, you know what? I mean, it's like almost like you could go all the way down, although you get too much muddling going on in the face here. So let's just bring the exposure down just a tad. You know, we'll just kind of actually I'm going to reset the highlights, and we'll just bring the exposure down just to get rid of those overexposed areas that are like right here. That already looks a little bit better. I'm going to bring the highlights down even further, something like that. And shadow detail, yeah, I'll just pop that up. You know. I don't know. Let's see what we're going to do with that. You know what? I'm going to leave the shadows there. I'm going to bring the whites up just a hair, just something like that. And I'm going to drop my blacks. I want this thing to punch, and I want the background to kind of disappear. That's already looking 100 times better. Yep. I mean, look at the before and after. Boom, boom. Yep. We're already got a little something going. It's a little bit cool looking. So let's add a little bit of warmth to it. Nice, nice. Yeah. That's a little bit better. Still a little bit hot over here, but, you know, nothing we can do. I think it's a little bit too warm, so let me just bring that down a little bit. We'll add a little bit of clarity. Just a hair. Just a touch like that. We're going to keep it just around there. Of course, I want to do some sharpening, so maybe we'll just grab her hair over here, maybe the beard. Maybe the beard's a better area to sharpen. Let's try that. So, just going to bring that in. And, you know, this was shot at 1/50th with a 55 to 300. Not the best choice of a shutter speed with the lens that long, because you're probably prone to some shake. Yeah, we're not that sharp over here. I mean, not bad over here. But yeah, I mean, look at all that. That's not so sharp right there. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's not the point of this whole thing. So yeah, so I'm liking this edit a little bit better over here, seeing what we got. So I'm just going to keep that as I'm just going to call that 1, and I'm going to go back to here to where I was before. I'm going to add a little bit more warmth. I'm going to drop the exposure just down a little bit further, something like that. yeah, it's just kind of a weird shot, because you know we've got all this light washing out over here. What else can we do to this thing here? Well, maybe a little bit of a vintage vibe, maybe some split toning. That could do. So let's just go in there. We'll kind of do the highlights, a little bit of that, and we'll do the shadows, a little bit of that, and let's just have a play with this. So yeah, skin's looking a little bit pasty. Let's bring the saturation down just a hair. Maybe we'll make that a little more magenta-like. Bring the saturation down on that a little bit, something like that. Maybe mess with the balance a little bit, somewhere around there. Bring that saturation down. Yeah, it's kind of got a little bit of a vibe to it. Maybe we'll add a little bit of vignetting. Alright, so I'm just going to do some lens vignetting, and I'm going to set my midpoint. Bring that way in. Going to bring that even further. Just something like that. Somewhere around there. You know, now it's kind of got a little bit of a thing happening over here. I'm still not in love with this whole kind of like really harsh area over here. So we're just going to go in there, we're going to use a brush tool, and we're going to darken that right there. And I'm just going to paint over it. Boom. Something like that. Boom. Now we can use the overlay tool to see where we've done that. And I'm just going to erase it where I don't want it. Overlaid. Too much. Okay. I'll get to this in a minute right here. So let's go and we'll turn the overlay off, and let's just bring the exposure down a little bit further on that. We'll take the highlights down a little bit. Yeah, it's looking a little better. It just has a weird kind of a color to it, you know. Shadows down, maybe something like that. Let's see, saturation, nah, yeah, whatever. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It just looks a little blotchy, which I don't care for. Maybe I'll bring the exposure back, and I'll just bring the highlights down, just something like around there. So let's close out of that right there. And you know, maybe that could be maybe my edit. So let's call that edit 1. And oh, well, actually, because edit 2, so we'll call that edit 2. Let's just see what a black and white looks like on this puppy. So we'll hit the V key for black and white, and I'm going to bring the contrast way up to make this nice and thick. I'm going to add some shadow detail, bring in some blacks, something like that. I want this a little softer, so I'm going to bring those whites down, something in there like that. And I think I'm going to lose the split toning. I think it's a little bit wacky. Yep, so we'll just bring that up. Actually, you know what? Let's go back into the split toning. Let's we'll turn this off. So we'll turn off we'll just use the yellow. And we'll just bring that saturation down just a little hair, just to give it a little bit of warmth. Something like that. And let's just see where we're at with that. Yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. You know, I think I probably could use to just bring the exposure down on this dude's arm. It's just too much. Too much, maybe on there too. It's just a weird exposure. Yep, that's looking a little better. That's looking a lot better, actually. Yep. All right. Close that. So yeah. So we'll call that. You know what? We'll call that 3. And I would say, all in all, that's probably going to be my edit. So we'll look at the before. We'll look at the after, and I think that all in all, I think that this one has a lot more drama, and you know, I think that, you know, based on what I'm working with here, this is kind of where I'm at with this file. So let's go off and see what Jared's got.
So here we are with your raw edits. This was not an easy file to play with because there's obviously some things wrong with it, but the whole point of the raw edit is to try and save the file because it's the last thing you have to do. They need this picture. You got one good picture in all of the shoot for some reason, or you got the one picture that is the best and that's the one they want. So that's why we do this raw edit, because we're not looking to edit the most perfect image in the world, because then there isn't much to do to it. So let's go through and see what you guys came up with. I thought this was fine. I thought this was a clean color edit. Maybe could use a little more contrast, but I think it definitely does work. Let's see. This is something different. this works. I think this works pretty well. I mean, I would like to see it to be a little brighter in this case, but I think the concept definitely works out very well, and I really like what they did here. It kind of has a studio feel to it, but it definitely does work. I like this too. This can work in an album. This is something different. They used a border and then the photo in the background to draw the interest in, and the black and white edit looks very nice. Then we've got a Darth Vader mask followed by a Stormtrooper mask. That definitely works. Why not? Make it work. Went on to more of a 8x10 type of crop here. A very silvery, crispy type of edit. It's fine. It works. I'd like to see a full crop. I don't like the 8x10s. I'd like to see a full frame image, but that's just me. Different backdrop, as I got an email here. I like the backdrop, and I like the color, too. Very nice and warm on the face. Sure, the shirt looks warm, the pants look warm, but it looks good. I think it fits well. As a composite, you can't really tell that it's a composite, and I think it works out very well. Nice job. I like this one a lot. This is a really nice, solid edit. The only problem is cutting the top of his head off. I wish he left a little more room up top. I don't mind it, though. It's not that bad. But the sepia look to it, very nice, very clean. I like what you did here. A little tighter, again, cutting the top of the head off, but that's all right. The color edit looks good. Really took this a long way from where it was in the raw file to where it is right here. Nice job. I just thought I'd put this in here as an interesting concept. They revert, the hands are holding each other and all that good stuff. Except now that I see it, they remove the heads and stuff. I don't like it as much as I originally liked it. Clean. Got rid of the background. Made the focus of it just the two people in the image. I think that works out. Nice color. Then they did it also in black and white. I think they both worked out well. This is nice too. You can see, as I talked about in my edit, in the background here you have the fill light being used, or the shadows being used. I still think it works. Maybe a little bit overexposed. Could pull back just a little bit. I like the crop on this. The color looks good. It's a little pixelated because that's the smaller file was uploaded, but I think that works out very well. I like the composition here. That makes for a good shot. Dreamy McDreamyson right here. It's rotated. I'm not a big fan of that, but yeah, you can tell right here that the angle of the horizon is off. It's an interesting concept. That's why I picked it out. I like this better. You did something with it. You tried something different, putting it inside the, sometimes you have to do this to make the image pop. And I think this works out well. I like the color of the edit, and I do like this concept. It would work well in a book or, yeah, on a photo book. It would look very good. I love the colors here. They really boomified them. They pumped the pinks of the lips, maybe a little too far, but the colors of everything else definitely work out. I do like that. All right, so now that I see this after picking it against the others, a little too harsh on pulling out the, or doing the shadows and the fill lights and stuff like that. It kind of makes it just look, just a weird look to it, at least in my opinion. That's better. You can see the difference here. One's cleaner. This is much cleaner. I like the solidness of this edit. Really nice edit right there. Same thing here. It's a little over the top, a little too much. They use the highlights and all that, and that's what fills in the face, but it kind of gets at that burned look, so I try to stay away from that as much as possible. Same thing here, a little bit, colors. It kind of gets that HDR-ish look, but really what's going on here is when you do too much when you fill in the shadows too much, because you can see how much the slider was moved based off of the background or the fill light, it just kind of makes them look glowy, not as solid as this. You can see how much more solid the faces are. It's nice, it's clean, the color is okay. Maybe a little warmer would be cool, but it's there. So that takes us back to the beginning. Nice edits. That's the whole point of this, is to try your hand at editing. Doesn't matter what program you use, doesn't matter how far you take it. That's the whole fun of this. It helps you learn whether you get it right or wrong. It's all a learning process. So let's see what you come up with for this week's Raw Edit of the Week, number 82, for that file taken with the D800 of the Screaming Girl, and put those in the Fro forum, because that is where I picked the critiques and yeah, that's where I showcase them from. So there you've got it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya. Are you subscribed yet on the YouTube channel? Well, click this subscribe button right here. Also click this box if you want to be emailed every time I upload a new video so you can get the latest video uploads as they happen. And also, if you haven't signed up for the free user's guide, sign up right here. Put your name, email address in here, hit send it. You will get a free ebook sent to your email, as well as a link to a 60-minute long video on flash photography in the studio that Adam and I created. So please do that, and we'll see you.